HTS Brick Reviews.
Hello there, it's Editor Jack with day 25 of the LEGO Star Wars Advent Calendar, which, although there isn't any more doors for the Advent Calendar, this will be my final thoughts and review on the entire calendar as a whole. So, let's begin by looking at some of the figures. Now here's the Mando from yesterday, and I think it came out really well, and I think it's a great minifigure, as well as the Grogu in his carriage. And although the rest of them are reuses, I think they're good reuses that really fit the theme of the Advent Calendar, such as IG-11, this Tuscan Raider with his crossbow, the Stormtrooper with the E-Web cannon, as well as a Scout Trooper on his bike. All of the figures really fit in with the Mandalorian. I think they were all great inclusions. Now, although there were two different weapon stands, which aren't always my favorite, I think that what they were able to do with them this year was really make them unique. And although they aren't my favorite builds that they ever include in Advent calendars, I think they've really made them feel as if they're more worthwhile this time around. As well as that, there's this little bit of environment, which is a little bit of rocky sand with the Tuscan Raider's weapon, and I think this is a pretty great day for the Advent calendar when it came out. And it goes really well with the Tuscan Raider, which is something I really like about this Advent calendar, is that they're releasing things in little groups, so a lot of the builds tend to go together well with each other. Starting off with, I believe, the first 2 days of the Advent calendar, the Razor Crest and this ship. I think they go together well from that scene of The Mandalorian, and they're both great builds, especially the Razor Crest, which I think is much better than last year's Advent calendar build. There's also this speeder from the very first scene, which I think is really nice to get. Now moving on to some of my favorite builds from the Advent calendar, one of them is definitely Boba Fett's Starship, which I think turned out really well, and the color scheme is really cool, being based on the 2000 version of the LEGO set. I think it's a great build and really looks like the ship. And another great build is definitely Moff Gideon's light cruiser. I think it turned out really well and is definitely one of my favorites from this Advent calendar. And this brings us on to this, which, although it isn't a minifigure, is a character. It's an Interrogation Droid, which I think it's pretty cool whenever in these Advent calendars they expand the playability beyond just the minifigures to other brick-built characters as well. It really allows you to expand the imaginative play involved. Now, speaking of imaginative play, there are these two targets, which are really nice to get, and they go along well with the Tuscan Raider and his crossbow, as well as the Stormtrooper and the E-Web cannon. Now, these are a pretty cool thing to see, as before this year, there wasn't really much interconnectivity within most of the Advent calendars, and it's really nice to see that they're starting to tell an overall story. Now, speaking of that story, here's this little transport carrier, which is recommended on the box that it carries snowballs, which could be used for the inevitable snowball fight between the Tuscan Raiders and the Imperials. So this is also feeds into that story, which I think is really cool, and really helps to make the Advent calendar feel a lot more cohesive and seem like it tells a story. Now, another great build that I really like is this Imperial Armored Marauder, which I have a special place in my heart for this set, as I got it back in August of this year and I really liked it. Now, this miniature model of the set really captures the shape, and I really like how it turned out with the swiveling cannon on top, and the shaping of it looks really good. And I believe lastly I need to feature both the X-Wing and TIE Fighter, which are both amazing builds and really encapsulate the shaping and the design of these two iconic pieces of Star Wars that I think are recreated very, very wonderfully in this Advent calendar. Now, I can't mention all of my positives without mentioning at least a couple of my negatives with it, and I believe that these two, although being great builds, really don't need to be included in this Advent calendar, as they're really just ways to hold on to the minifigure's weapons, and I feel like it would have been much better if the weapons were just included with the minifigures themselves, and these builds could have been used for something more, even as just like scenery elements like this, but they wouldn't have been structured so much on focusing on holding weapons, which I feel is the main feature that holds this advent calendar back, although I really think that this is one of the best advent calendars that they've ever made, at least from Star Wars, in my opinion. And I have gotten and opened every advent calendar since, I believe, 2013 it was. And over that time, you really get a good sense for what LEGO tries to do with these advent calendars. Although that has changed and evolved over time, I think they've really got it to a good point where the advent calendars themselves really tell a story. And I think that is the most important part. I forgot to mention the little baby carrier, which can be used for many of the different figures to carry around Grogu, which is a major plot point of the entire show, is how so many people end up capturing this little baby. Overall, I would say that this advent calendar is a 10 out of 10, and I say that because I really love LEGO, and any score that I give is going to be on the high end, so even though there are a few minor flaws, I am still very satisfied with the overall product, and it feels really nice. Now, with the price, some people say yes, the price is a little high, just like all LEGO products, but I think at the end of the day, when you think about all of its different features, I feel like the value can be justified, mainly because a lot of what you're paying for is that day-to-day experience of opening up the advent calendar. So many people say, is the $40 worth the plastic? And it might not be $40 worth of plastic, but it is worth the experience of getting up every morning to open this up. And in terms of figures alone, there are 5 minifigures, including IG-11, and 6 if you count little Grogu. And I think overall, what you get from it in terms of an experience and some of the minifigures and your memories, that really allows the price to feel justified. And I am proud to say that I think that this is pretty well priced. I think if they tried to make it any more than this, I don't think they would be able to get away with it. But I think they've reached a good price. It isn't too high, and it also isn't too low for them. So I think that is a great feature of this advent calendar, is that it doesn't feel, well, it feels like it's priced somewhat well. Now, overall, I really did enjoy this advent calendar and making all of these videos to show to all of you. So if you have enjoyed these, I thank you so much for watching all of these videos. This really has been special. So, Merry Christmas, Happy Life Day.
Thanks for watching.